both those are true, Fred. And, it's with NCAA restrictions, I don't have any contact with players. And really, at my age, that's kind of a blessing, probably for both groups. But we've had a tremendously productive summer. I think we had right around 50 of our returning 70 players that were here throughout July training together, which is by far the biggest number we've had. So certainly they've got their own enthusiasm and motivation as we head into the fall of 2016.
Defense will probably be your strong point this year.
Well, certainly on paper it is. I think we return, Fred, 9 starters and probably 15, 16 guys that played as starters in rotations, sub-packages, those types of things. So, certainly on paper, and I keep underlining that, it appears like we could continue to play good defense. We've been 1 or 2 in the league for 3 consecutive years in scoring defense, total defense, and among the national leaders, top 20, 25 in almost every major stat. So hopefully that does take place. But in the same breath, you can't assume anything. There's no gimmies in college football, and the first thing we'll do is try and reestablish that culture and that camaraderie that unit's been blessed to have for 3+ years now.
Strong in the back, linebackers, defensive backs are strong there.
Return all starters there and backups and meaningful depth. And we also, we did lose 2 big starters in Nick Reichert and Devin Gillespie, defensive tackle and defensive end, and as much as playing ability as leadership. So we've got plenty of players at that spot. We just need to see how it all shakes out from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah, and that'll be a place, your line will be, defensive line will be a thing you're really going to be working on there.
It will be. Once again, you've got Brian Kraft, who will be back for his 3rd year starting as an interior lineman, Kyle LaCrone, who played just like a starter and played like an all-league guy the last half of last year, and then Pablo Adame, a 3rd-year player who probably played 150 snaps last year interior. On the edge, you've got returning Isaiah Hinton, John Sheeler, a 2nd-year player who started a handful of ball games last year and a bunch of snaps. So we certainly have more than enough bodies there.
Single one more guy out, maybe Mr. Zoda. He tackled everybody but the ball boy. I think last year he had a great year, and you expect more great things from him this year.
We do. I mean, Austin's going to end up, Lord willing, Fred, as long as he stays healthy, he'll be a 4-year starter. He'll end up being a 3-time all-conference performer. He'll be one of our all-time great tacklers from a career perspective, and he'll end up being a 2-year captain. So, and he's going to go on and coach. So his type of combination of ability, attitude, football IQ or football intelligence is rare, and we'll enjoy him as long as we have him.
Switch to the offense a little bit. Probably going to have a battle at quarterback maybe this fall, huh?
We will. Randy Schroeder started 6 games last year, went 4-2. The only bad loss on there was the Quincy football game. So he certainly had more than a cup of coffee and got his feet wet in terms of game speed, meaningful reps. But the window of competition is not closed. Jaden Barr, a redshirt freshman from California, Missouri, he's had a tremendous spring and summer in terms of winning over the team, in terms of leadership, all the intangible things, in addition to he's a good football player. And then Dan Ziegler from Rochester, Illinois, a true freshman, will get a good hard look in training camp. And we also return our 3-hole hitter in Dalton Powell, a Pershing scholar, tremendous intelligence, valedictorian from Hannibal, that's really worked himself into we certainly could win with him. So that's a position of strength, we think, which is a good thing as we head into this fall.
And running backs, you got some guys coming back, but the number 1 guy is Satula.
Andy has shown himself to be dependable, available on a consistent basis, along with a good ability. He should take a major step forward. You've got A.J. Hartfield, who's had a good, productive career, a couple different seasons of 400 or 500 yards rushing and a backup role behind Garrett White for our Bulldog fans a couple of years ago. In addition to that, we've got Malik Robbins from just down the road at Quincy, who was really emerging until they had a posterior cruciate mid-year last year, so hopefully he can get back in the fold and stay healthy. We've got another kid from Eureka, Missouri, a 3rd-year player by the name of Adam Yancey, who's just on the verge of being very, very quality. And we also have an incoming freshman in Jordan Salima from Truman High School. He was all conference. In fact, he was a defensive and offensive player of the year in the league he played in, from Eric Holm, who's the athletic director there, old Truman Bulldog Hall of Famer, outstanding football coach, good friend. And Jordan was actually the most valuable player of the Missouri-Kansas High School All-Star game this summer in Blue Springs. Had about 150 yards rushing, a couple touchdowns. So we're excited to see what he brings to the table as well.
Okay, you can throw the ball. Well, you can't have a better guy than Joey Shank right there, can you?
No, you just think of dependability, consistency. He's available every week. He's a big, strong target. When I say big, he's 6'5", 220-pound wide receiver that can bully corners, take the football away from them on jump balls. Certainly a proven product.
He will be a marked man. Obviously, people know who he is, and they'll go after him. Will part of the key to your offense this year maybe be just to spread the ball out when you throw it to other people?
No question. That's a key, Fred, for all offenses, but there's no question about that. And the emergence of another outside threat, whether it's Jackson Beckett from Kansas City, who's had a really good spring and summer, whether it's a talented but unproven Brass Woods, who's yet to do it on the field but has great speed, another 6'5" guy, 21-4, 200-meter, 48 flat out of high school. Somebody like that to take the pressure off of Joey. And then inside receivers, we return Kyle Spratt. Mitchell Nichols from Hannibal, Missouri, has moved from running back to inside slot receiver, along with Jordan Jorgensen, another slotter inside. So we've got a bevy of players, and we also have some 4 or 5 really quality incoming guys that could challenge there as well. But you're correct. Moving it around will be key. And obviously Joey's going to be Joey, and he can actually affect positively the rest of our offense as we pay a little more attention to him defensively.
Can't pick the guy. So you got a pretty good tight end coming back, don't you?
Yeah, C.J. Brown will be. He started last year as a true freshman, and hopefully he's going to be a year better, tougher, and that's a position of concern for us. And hopefully he'll take a huge step forward and play like an all-conference type performer for us.
This year you start with 2 home games. How important is that?
Well, it's goes without saying, we've got 4 of our first 5 at home, so the schedule's aligned, the stars are aligned this year. And last year, you and I were talking off the record, I don't know what you came up with, 5,000 miles, which was like going to Rio. As you and Kevin were doing the math just a little bit ago, but last year alone, just starting at Wichita Falls, Texas, week 1, and turning around and going to Detroit, Michigan, week 2, that was 22, 23 hours on a bus, and a very difficult loss at 21-20 loss in downtown Detroit to Wayne State that I don't think we ever really recovered from that early season tough start. So hopefully we can get out of the gate, find some early season success, some much needed confidence / even swagger for a football team that we'd had 2 consecutive winning seasons and didn't see last year the 5 and 6 coming. So hopefully they've had the motivation chip, the chips on their shoulder, Fred, have been big time since last January. So now we just need a little confidence and swagger to go with it and get us back into challenging for a championship.
Conference-wise, they picked you 4th. It may be bulletin board material for your guys too a little bit, huh?
Well, absolutely. We've been preseason, and you know me well enough that you could pick me 1st or 2nd, 3rd, 4th, who cares? And that's for all of us. You're going to have to tee it up and play football here in a couple weeks and compete on Saturdays, regardless of what we as coaches or the media thinks with preseason stuff. But no question, that's what the head coaches, that's where they perceive us. That's where they perceive our football program, and certainly that's not where we perceive ourselves. So, it was interesting. A couple weeks ago, I spoke in St. Louis to the 1969, 1970, and 71 MIAA conference football champions. It was their 45th reunion. Had about 55 old Bulldogs that were there, and that 69 team was picked 4th, the 70 team was picked 4th, and the 71 team was picked 4th. So they certainly, Coach Sloan and Coach Richardson and all those guys certainly used that as motivation as well back in that time period.
Did off-season stuff, and you can't be involved in it, but you can tell when practice starts what kind of shape they're in. You can tell on Saturday you'll go, okay, you'll know who's working out and who hasn't been. And probably 90% of these guys will have worked out, and they're going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
How much does that tell you just about how far this program's coming? Just through something like that they'll do it on their own, and they want to get it done themselves.
Well, absolutely. Changing culture, I think the 6 years prior to arrival was about a 30% winning percentage. I think defensively, we were actually last in the country the year before we got here in total defense, scoring defense. So we knew coming in what we were getting into, and it has been it's been a chore. You know, for me, you and I were talking off the record. I'm going into my 37th year, and certainly both at high school and collegiately have been blessed to be in a lot of good situations and a lot of good football teams and championships and all those things that go with it through those years. And this has been without a doubt the most difficult competitive challenge I've bitten off. But I also think, and I really believe this, Fred, that I think this program, this football team, based on that work ethic that you just alluded to, I really do think we're ready to take off and challenge at a championship level and perhaps even a national level. Time will tell, certainly in a difficult non-conference schedule, regardless of where you play them. Midwestern State is probably a top 5 or 10 team nationally. You've got Grand Valley, which is definitely a top 5 team. Those two schools in particular, Indianapolis, who's won 4 consecutive leagues and nationally ranked team in their own right. So, you know, we've definitely have got some big fights, and then the GLVC itself has grown remarkably, and there are no gimmies. I mean, every week it's like the original MIAA in terms of you've got to be ready to play every week, regardless of who you are, from Indianapolis on down.